a man stood behind a curtain. Outside, tens of thousands of people chanted his name. Floodlights filled the stadium. Cameras from around the world awaited him. He had more money than he ever imagined as a child. More famous than the president. More loved than almost anyone on the planet. But that night, behind the smile, the world saw there was a man feeling increasingly alone, more isolated, more trapped inside his own life. How could someone who had everything lose himself? And what price did it cost to become the most famous man in the world?
His name was Michael Jackson. 2 millions. He was the king of pop, a cultural icon, a musical revolutionary, an entertainer who changed history. But this story isn't about his songs. It's not about his legendary dancing. It's not about his record-breaking album sales. It's a story about the hidden price of success. It's about how one's biggest dreams can turn into an almost impossible burden, because the world often teaches us how to achieve success, but rarely does it teach us how to survive after achieving it.
Before the world knew him as Michael Jackson, he was just a boy from a humble family in Gary, Indiana. Their home was small. Their life wasn't easy. His father had big dreams for his children, and those dreams came with great pressure. From a very young age, Michael lived under strict discipline. The slightest mistake could result in punishment. Long practice sessions became a part of everyday life. While other children played outside, Michael spent his time practicing, singing, dancing, repeating the same moves over and over. Perfection wasn't an option. It was a requirement. And slowly, his childhood began to fade. The world saw a talented child. But off stage, there was a child who was losing the chance to be a child. Success came quickly. With their family group, Michael became a star. Audiences fell in love with her talent. The media began to notice her. The money started to flow. Popularity continued to grow. But something wasn't growing. Freedom. The more famous she became, the less normal life she had. She couldn't walk down the street. She couldn't go to the park like other kids. She couldn't build a normal life. The whole world wanted a piece of her. And little by little, the world began to take it all. As an adult, her success exploded to unprecedented levels. Album after album broke records. Concert after concert sold out. Her name became a global phenomenon. She wasn't just a singer anymore. She became a symbol, a brand, a living legend. But underneath it all, the pressure grew. Because when the world thinks you're perfect, you're no longer allowed to be ordinary. Every mistake becomes news. Every decision became controversial. Every change became a topic of conversation. Michael lived under the biggest microscope ever. Imagine waking up every morning, knowing that millions of people were judging your life, judging your face, judging your body, judging your choices, judging every word you said. Over the years, the pressure kept building, and like many people, living under extreme pressure. Michael began looking for ways to cope with his pain, both physical and emotional. But some of the methods he chose actually created new problems. His life became increasingly complex, more and more difficult to control. Meanwhile, the media turned from admirers to hounds. Every rumor became headline news. Every accusation became a public spectacle. Every controversy became entertainment. The world that once lifted him to the skies began to enjoy watching him fall. And perhaps the most tragic part is this: the more famous Michael Jackson became, the lonelier his life became. Because there's a big difference between being known by everyone and being truly understood by someone. Millions of people know his name, but very few understand his suffering. Very few understand the psychological burden of being Michael Jackson. On stage, he seemed superhuman. Behind closed doors, he was still human. Someone who felt fear, someone who felt sadness, someone who felt loneliness, and that burden grew heavier with each passing year.
There came a point when Michael began to realize that success couldn't give him what he'd been searching for. He had fame, he had money, he had influence, but none of that automatically brought peace. Many people think that the more successful a person is, the happier their life will be. Michael is proof that this isn't always the case, because human needs don't stop with achievement. People still need relationships, serenity, security, acceptance. And none of these things can be bought with money. In interviews throughout his life, Michael often spoke of loneliness, about the loss of his childhood, about his desire for a more normal life. Behind the glamour the world sees, there was someone still searching for something he never fully attained: peace. And that was the most painful turning point in this story. The realization that the greatest successes in life can't always heal the deepest wounds.
At his peak, Michael Jackson achieved the nearly impossible. He became one of the most successful artists in human history. His music transcended countries, across languages, across generations. His influence is still felt today, but his story leaves a lesson far greater than music. We live in a world that often worships the end result. Luxurious cars, big houses, awards, popularity, followers, amounts of money. But rarely does anyone ask, what was the price paid for all that? In Michael Jackson's case, that price was steep, privacy, serenity, trust, and normal life. Even a part of himself. And perhaps that's why his story is so touching, because deep beneath his legendary status, we see something deeply human. A child longing to be loved. A man seeking to be understood. A man trying to find peace in a world that constantly demands more of him. Success is indeed wonderful, but if success comes at the expense of mental health, sacrificing meaningful relationships, sacrificing self-identity, then the question we must ask is, are we pursuing the life we truly desire, or merely pursuing what the world considers success? Now, I want to ask you a question. If you could have all the money and fame you wanted, but it would cost you your peace of mind, would you still choose it? In your opinion, what is the biggest price people often pay for success? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective, because the true definition of success may be different for everyone. And if you enjoy insightful stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. There are many more incredible stories about great figures who teach life lessons never taught in school. See you in the next video. And remember, Success isn't just about what you gain. It's also about what you have to sacrifice to get it.